The Legend of Dragoon is an all-time classic, largely considered an underrated gem of the PS1 era. It came out late in the PlayStation 1's lifespan, 1999 and 2000, and 2001 and overseas and such, etc. Now, even though Legend of Dragoon is one of my favorite games, next to Soul Blade, my top two, if you were to ask me, is this game a masterpiece? I would hesitate. I would hesitate and say Legend of Dragoon is a piece that can still be mastered. Not to say that it ain't a great game, I just know that there are obvious and glaring blemishes on this game that, if they were ironed out, could vastly make a tremendous difference in the replay value. Now, this is not to rip on the game at all anyway, or if I do, it's out of love.
Alright, it's out of love, motherfucker. It's out of love.
But mostly to point out and to share the ways that it can be improved if there were to be a remaster or a remake. But I'm more in a remaster camp because I don't want there to be too many glaring changes. We're gonna hop off, and I'm not gonna make any sort of gameplay changes or anything drastic. I'll save that for later videos and we can get all real nasty with those. But for now, we'll talk about convenience takes, ways to improve the levels of fun and investment, and what's that word when you get involved? What's that word, what is that word, motherfucker?
When you're watching a movie and you're get stuck in the movie and you're glaring and you don't want to get taken out of the scene, and then somebody, the phone rings, all of a sudden you're like, you took me out of my immersion. Yeah, immersion, that's the word I'm looking for. Ways to improve your immersion. Got it, I finally got it.
Alright, now one of the biggest glaring issues of this game is the loading times. Now, I'm going to play this in the background, and I want you to count in your head how long this is going to take to load up a simple encounter. Now, you may notice this has been going on for quite a long while already, but if you counted, it was approximately 17 seconds. Each and every encounter, random encounter, takes 17 seconds to load up. And I think that if there were a remaster, that can be easily improved. Next, we'll talk about the transformation scenes. And I know that you can turn these to short, but who wants to turn these transformations to short and take a shortcut to do them? I think the main thing that we would want is to show them, but for them to be quicker. We want to see something cool. We want to see it actually happen. And so I'm going to demonstrate some ways that can cut these cutscenes down. Now, I don't really care how they go about it, as long as they trim the time down to at least half. So we're going to count how long does it take to Dart to transform. And you can see that not only just long time loading the transformation, the animation, there's a loading time to transfer back into the battle scene.
Approximately 3 seconds to start up, 13 seconds to animation, 4 seconds to get back into the battle. It's way too long.
It's way too long. One thing Dragoon misses, in my opinion, is having a big move. A big single shot maneuver that can do a tremendous amount of damage. Now, the game has that in Dragoon attacks, magic attacks. However, these animations take so long that you're always hesitant to do them. It doesn't matter who you are hesitant to do them because it takes so long. Don't lie. Don't lie, mother. Don't lie.
At 5 seconds to start up, 27 seconds of animation, 32 seconds of total just to do one single attack. That is way too long, mothers.
That is way too long. And if these were shortened down at least in half, then we will be less hesitant to do these moves, and it will provide a great relief to actually perform these big one-shot moves. It would enrich the game. I can't count so many times that you want to just spot the big guns and just blow the enemy away, but because you know how long it's going to take to transform, how long it's going to take for the animation to play out, how long it's going to take to get back into the battle, to load back into the battle, you don't do it because you know that it's going to be quicker to just rough it out and tough it out. And if it were a remaster that can eliminate this amount of load time, this amount of waiting and animation, overly long animations, then it would enrich the value of the gameplay tremendously, and it wouldn't feel like our options are so limited. What I provided are some examples of these Dragoon attacks being reduced in time. These aren't really well, refined. If anyway, I'm doing this in Windows Movie Maker, so just bear with it. Alright, I ain't rich, man. I ain't, giving you some ibuprofen, IV Max, Cinemax movies, whatever. So we're gonna do some ghetto stuff, and these are gonna be how I would personally cut these scenes from what I have to work with. And this is how I would have a remaster, or how I would dream for a remaster to go about this. And you'll see how fast the gameplay would flow and how seemingly it would flow. Now you would cut a lot of these attacks down in half, and that may be a bummer to some. As long as the time is skimmed down, that's all that really matters.
Rowstorm!
Another pet peeve of mine are certain addition attacks that go along with the loading. They take, two specifically, Hashell and what's that Squeak's name? Miru. They have two additions that take an unbearable amount of time just to perform, and I think they take a bit too long. So I personally would include these, and I just want to just cut them down just a notch. It takes, I hate using them just for that one simple reason. That's all. Another adjustment I would have in a remaster is that in the equipments there are swords, there are helms, there are body pieces, and there are boots, and there are accessories. Now everything really has its own value except for the boots. The boots are really the only things that don't really affect much. So what I would do is I want to open up the gameplay a bit more. So I would have a way where you could I would trim some of that and have them interchangeable. For example, I would have the boots and the accessories be a combined slot where they can both be shared with the same item. So you can have essentially, instead of having a bandage boot and having to put on a ring like a protector ring, or these useless rings that don't ever be used, you could possibly put on two bandage boots, two bandage accessories to double your speed. Or you could put on like a therapy ring and a protector, you know, with these status effect elements that don't really provide any use in the game. Putting up a bit of use for these items that don't really get much playtime, much burn, because they aren't really that useful. When you have stock like a bandage ring and you top on, you know, a physical ring on top of it, or a therapy ring, you know. So I would open up that element and just make those 2 equipment slots, make them one whole and mix them up. That's personally what I would do, is just open up the use for these equipments as a whole. Another fun adjustment I would have in a remaster or any future installments is that the edition system, these editions don't really matter what order you get them in. Now, some editions are powerful, some provide more SP points, some provide, you know, greater challenge, and some are just better versions of the previous ones, but they are more difficult. But all in all, these editions, they don't really affect how much you can go further, you know. It all depends on your character as a whole. So these editions won't really be cheats if you were to get them in any sort of order. So what I would like is a way to get these editions sooner. There's no real difference if you were to get, for Miru, a double smack as her first edition versus getting, say, Cat's Cradle as her first edition. So I would like a bit of a RNG sort of thing here, where you could get these editions, you know, in any sort of order throughout your game, except for your Master Edition. You have to get that one, you know, by maxing all your other editions, you know, as per usual. But I would like to just to spice up the replay value to get these editions in random orders, you know, each and every time you play the game, because they don't really affect how much, you know, they're not like just better versions. Some of them are, but they are more difficult to do. So I would like to splice it up a bit and mix them how you obtain these editions. So each time you load up the game and play it, you got that little RNG factor. Oh, I got Volcano as my first edition, or I got Moonstrike as my first edition. That would be cool, you know, to start the game off with Moonstrike. And then as you go on, like maybe your next sex edition. Maybe your next edition is, you know, like Madness Hero, or maybe it's, you know, double slash. Maybe you get double slash as your last edition. That would be kind of cool to have that. So I would put a bit of RNG factor in there as far as the editions. That's just for a fun take, you know, a fun adjustment for me, because it can get a bit stale dealing with the same doubles. Everybody gets that one single double smack, double slash, whip smack, you know, double punch, double kick, you know, whatever. Everybody starts off with that one attack, and it would be cool to splice it up and have that one character, when you first get him, Lavis gets Gust of Wind Dance as his first attack, you know, while you're in Helena prison. I think that would be pretty dope. And a lot of gamers who experience the game for the first time, they'll be like, whoa, this game is sick. You know, you have to deal with this right off the bat, you know. So I think that would be pretty cool. A gameplay consideration for any future installments or remasters or remakes in Legend of Dragoon.
Let's get Remaster going. Come on, do it, you guys. You know it is the best thing that can happen. Do it. Do it. Do it.
So if there were any more player considerations I would do for a remaster of this game, is that a lot of the times when you're running around, you'll notice that the random encounters can be quite bothersome. You get charm potions throughout the game, which will reduce your risk for encounters. Every certain amount of steps you take will increase your encounter rate, and you can visually see your encounter rate. It'll go from blue to yellow to red. When it's red, you're going to get into an encounter with any extra amount of steps that you take. So in order to avoid these, you go into the menu and you go to your items and you scroll down to the bottom of the list and you get a charm potion. You click it, you use it, and you reduce your risk of encounter. You take your meter back to blue, you exit the menu, you go back, and you run down until your meter fills up again, and you rinse and repeat this process to avoid all the random encounters. You can do this for the entire game. However, going into the menu is quite, you know, why have us go through the menu when there are so many buttons that aren't used? I would personally have it so you can just press assign any item to one singular button. So as you're running along, square is a button that's not ever in use in a game. If you're running and you just press square, then it would automatically use said item from your inventory, and that will reduce your risk of an encounter, and that would increase your incentive to buy these charm potions instead of going through the menu, because this can be tiresome doing it every single time, man. Come on, you know. So that would be a player consideration I would have. I would also have, if we were to get it really wild here, people complain about the item limit. Alright, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but a lot of people did. It's a big deal. So what I would personally do is I don't want to increase the item limit, because I think that the difficulty would be muffins, you know, if you would increase the item limit. So what I would do, instead of increasing that and making the game, you know, baby easy, I would have some sort of item system where you can like have items delivered, and you can store items in like a base somewhere, and you know, you can like call for items to be delivered to you, but you have to pay like some amount of gold or whatever. You know, I would do something along like that, something Resident Evil like, something that doesn't make the game so easy where you just like buy 1,000 angel's prayers and killing potions, you know, and then you can like beat the game without ever having to you know, do anything else. But the first shop you go to, you can beat the game, you know, because you bought so many items. So we want to avoid that with this game, because items do work differently and they can't last the entire game. They don't upgrade. So I would do that. Or, you know, instead of the charm potion idea, just make new items where there are super charm potions that can reduce encounter rates for like minutes at a time, or, you know, like they have like a 5-minute or 10-minute expiration date or some. So I would do something along those lines, and that would make the game so much less tedious.
I freaking hate going through Aglis. You know how annoying that place is. Every single step you take is an encounter. I want to throw donuts at the mailman. But I digress. There is a lot of loading in general between turns. If you were to take notice, it takes just a tad bit too long, and it can be, you know, ironed out a bit so that it can be a bit smoother. One thing I would praise Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 7 in particular, is that the turns go by smush, you know. It's like bringing out, you know, green eggs and ham, you know, left and right, center, you know, punch them, kick them, you know. And in Legend of Dragoon, it's more like hit, wait for the enemy to walk towards you, hit, okay, now I get to be interactive with my gameplay, addition, now wait for the turn, okay, select, you know. Whereas Final Fantasy is more like hit, you know. So even though it's not a more interactive game, it is more immersive because the terms are so much, you know, smooth flowing. So that can be cleaned up, personally, in my opinion. If there were a remaster, that can definitely be improved, although it is not too big of a deal. There are more loading times that can be cleaned up, this game as a whole, but, you know, we'll get into the bigger issues. I love you.